personally, I think there was this great sense of adventure that we started every day with because we just didn't know what was going to happen. We were kind of learning a lot about the culture, about living in the city, about, you know, being in a completely foreign, not just meaning not US, but I think Western versus Eastern culture as well. And one of the things that I would say was like a hard adjustment for me was initially kind of the unpredictability and the inability to control everything around me. I am by nature, a very type A person, very linear thinker. And so knowing that there was so much unpredictability, and in fact that culturally for them that was kind of acceptable. It was sort of the point at which they were in their cultural evolution, and a lot of it had to do with economic development. And China, in a lot of ways, in 2009, was not experiencing the impact of the global economic crisis at the same rate and level that a lot of other countries were. So they were somewhat insulated and still feeling this like, great sense of growth. And so because of that, there was this kind of anything is possible mentality. So every day was different for them, and that was the expectation. And for me, trying to adjust to living in a different place and being around a bunch of people where it was like, oh yeah, today this store is open and tomorrow that building doesn't even exist. And that's progress, was crazy. And it was so uncomfortable. And the thing that was great though was the moment at which, probably maybe like a year in, where my husband and I realized that we certainly weren't okay with the unpredictability, but we'd gotten sort of comfortable being uncomfortable, which is probably the closest I was ever going to get to being okay with a different kind of day every day. And so, I mean, there are times when, since I've been back, where I miss that, a little bit of that, but not enough that I wish that would suddenly happen to me again. But I am grateful for having had the opportunity to experience it and figure out how someone like me functions in that kind of an environment.
I think my biggest challenge is it was both personal and professional. I think, you know, it's about doing as the Romans do. It's easier said than done. I think when you get to China, for instance, you know, my biggest challenge was professional, I think, much more than anything else. It was essentially running an office not knowing the language. And that is almost like literally not having one of your senses. So you need to use intuition much more in that kind of a situation where, you know, essentially you're operating in a culture where you're not very familiar. So your other senses need to get attuned much more. Whereas the move to the US for me was challenging, you know, certainly professional and personal, settling in. One of the things is as I moved into the US, it's easy to imagine that knowing the language, you would kind of, you know, you would easily fit in. But honestly, language is is an important but small component of the entire thing, and it's about fitting into the business culture and understanding the business culture, and that is a huge learning curve. So, you know, certainly that was the challenge, very different than China for me.